we've heard from the EFCC, the bail conditions for the social media activist. And then on the other hand, on the one hand, we hear it's based on, complaints from individuals. And then EFCC says, no, it's no such thing, it's fake news. This miscommunication, is that what is giving oxygen to this?
If the EFCC is able to determine what is fake news, one would expect too that it will sell us the proper news, the proper situation of things. Right. I think I like the slogan of the EFCC where before now when it says the EFCC will get you anytime, anywhere, right? So that's connotes a very powerful organization that's ubiquitous. In that case, and then an individual, that kind of powerful organization against an individual, the organization should show some restraint and should show some measure of, application of standards. You see, I can say this on behalf of Ola Olukayode, the chairman of the EFCC, that he's committed to standards. But sometimes, oftentimes, the operatives of the EFCC get somewhat overzealous. And when they do that, it shouldn't be too difficult to explain. Now, the problem we have here, and that's a very dangerous situation where you find young people going to the bank, the premises of the bank, going to protest because they're dealing with a very influential personality called Very Dark Man that is well loved. In fact, his followership is phenomenal. Now, and that's the reason why EFCC as an organization that also requires the goodwill of the public in its fight against corruption and financial crimes should actually deal carefully with an individual like Very Dark Man. Now, there's a problem. He has been arrested, and then there seemed to be a form of strong, cooperation that was offered by the Guarantee Trust Bank. The expectation is a show of accountability on the part of the EFCC and the bank by simply explaining to Nigerians that this is exactly what's happening. Nobody is saying that the Very Dark Man is above the law. However, when it seems...
the bank in question says, they don't have a hand in it. The young man, the VDM, was arrested outside the premises of the bank, that they've exculpated themselves, more or less.
Oh, but Nigerians don't believe. And that's more reason why an authority like the EFCC should be the forefront of showing a level of accountability to the people by saying this and such a reason is why we arrested Very Dark Man. And of course, because of the presumption of innocence, he should be assumed that he has been granted bail. And then so that report...
Given bail conditions, he will not be released until he meets his bail conditions, and he will be taken to court.
Well, that's the report. That's a report accredited to the BBC.
Right.
However, it's nothing difficult for the EFCC. EFCC has fantastic spokesmen. Whether you talk about Dili or Wilson Owajure, these are people who are very experienced in the business of public relations and public communication. So it's not difficult to communicate it. The problem is, Nigerians lose respect for the EFCC when it fails to do very simple things like this, or when it seems as if it's doing the bidding of one person. The chairman is not like that. I can say that because I've had a personal contact with him. So my mindset about the way he operates is a matter of very high ethical standards.
So why is it not reflecting in his men on the ground?
That's the reason why. That's the reason why people protest. That's the reason why we must say that this is not the proper thing to do, especially for a very influential person like Very Dark Man.
Yeah.
My expectation is that simply go and tell the public what is done. And now, because of the presumption of his innocence, announce the bail conditions. I mean, I think it's valid a point if someone says that you could have simply, invited him. I mean, for a long time, and when the FCC carries out one forms of publication as to a wanted person, the people show up because they know that from the current, criminal arrangement, whether you even flee abroad, you'll be caught. So my expectation is that the EFCC should show some measure of accountability to the people. It's not a government to itself.
How can the EFCC, show accountability? How can the EFCC fix this? What's looking in your eyes like a damage to the reputation of the EFCC?
I think just do the right thing. I would have expected
the right thing be?
They call a press conference, because you can see that in this age of the social media, where people like Very Dark Man reign as I would say as kings. They carry a lot of influence in that place, and every young Nigerian nearly sees this sort of fellows as role models. So it's not a very good thing if now the FCC is seen as the oppressor, as the one that can be used by the government to suppress free speech. Because so, in order not to allow, because we see that label of these explanations as fake news, in order not to allow the constant growing fake news to be preponderant, you have to make the proper statement. Give the statement. So what the FCC should do now, in realizing that it doesn't matter whether he's a young person, the level of his popularity demands that a press briefing be given immediately to show some measure of accountability to Nigerians, that you don't work for yourself and that you are not against Nigerians, and that we are all in the business of fighting corruption together, fighting financial crimes, or whatever, in this case is cyber stalking. Nobody really wants
Let's
it.
talk about this cyber stalking. Is it being... okay. Very quickly, you were going to say...
cyber stalking. Cyber stalking, you see, look, until you become a victim of some of these crimes, you would not find the FCC to be a very useful organization. In this case, we're saying that it has to be on the good side of the people so that it can enjoy the goodwill of the people. After all, it's set up to serve the people. Cyber stalking can be a very dangerous crime, especially when it attacks innocent people. But the very dark one is seen in the eyes of Nigerians, especially young Nigerians, as a freedom fighter, as someone who's speaking on their behalf, and it does it in such an innovative manner. Plain. It doesn't with a lot of and then it comes out to be well loved, and that's strange. And some of us are very impressed with him. And in that case, the FCC should even see such persons as partners, even when they make mistakes. And in that case, they should not. Of course, he's already a hero, but you increase his heroism when you arrest him in such a manner and refuse to explain.